Hi, today I'm going to talk about the types of questions asked in quant interviews. Well, it depends on whether you are a fresher or an experienced candidate. Questions can differ. Um, if you are a fresher, a lot of the questions will be more generic questions, not domain specific, not model specific, or project specific. Whereas if you are an experienced candidate, a lot of the questions will be from the projects that you have been part of in the past. So I'm going to tell you actually what exactly are the questions asked in quant interviews. It also depends on what type of quant role you're being interviewed for. If you're being interviewed for a quant trading role, questions will be very different from if you are being interviewed for other types of quant roles, such as quant research or model validation, or you want to work, as a quant in fintech firms. So the thing is that this is a technical role, so a lot of the questions will be technical. So regardless of which type of controls you are being interviewed for, you will be asked questions from quantitative modeling and programming, right? That is for sure. Now the actual question, the exact questions would differ, but you will get questions from quant modeling, mathematical modeling, statistical modeling, machine learning. You will be asked questions regarding financial markets, about products, whether it's financial products, whether it's loan products, market products, or loan products, fixed income. A lot of things can be asked in an interview. Depending on the role that you are being interviewed for, you need to prepare accordingly. Okay. If you're a fresher, people won't give much emphasis about your skills in finance or investment or banking, whether you know regulation or not. All that will be of less important in the interview. You'll be judged mostly on your programming skills, your mathematical modeling skills, your knowledge of some of these, statistical algorithm used in quantitative finance, or mathematical modeling techniques, used in quant finance. And if you have done some courses on quant finance or risk modeling, and you have written about it on your CV, then you'll also be asked some questions from that. Okay. So, yeah, it goes without saying they will ask you some questions about your programming skills, right? Whether you know object-oriented programming or not, whether you can perform uh, mathematical computation using any programming language or not, whether it's Python or C++ or any other language, right? You will be asked questions from probability and statistics. Probability questions are very common in quant interviews, so learn that topic very well. Okay. It could be a very basic question from things that we have learned in high school, but you could also be asked more complicated questions. So learn probability and probability distributions very well. um, I think you will get for sure a couple of questions from that, especially for a fresher, right? Experienced people don't get questions from probability distribution. Well, sometimes they do, but not often. But freshers, they will always get questions from probability and some statistical theory, inferential theory, inferential statistics, sampling. Those topics can be asked into interviews. Okay. Nowadays, questions from machine learning is also quite common, right? Understanding of um, machine learning algorithms, whether it is logistic regression, whether it is random forest or boosting bagging, support vector machine, how to cross validate, uh, and how to do a back test of the model, how to assess performance of the model, how to monitor models in the future, right? How to do feature engineering, right? How to select the right set of features for your models. So all these questions will be asked in the interviews. You will also be asked questions which are not statistical machine learning type. For instance, you could be asked questions regarding Monte Carlo simulations. You could be asked questions about Markov models or Markov chain, or Markov chain Monte Carlos, as MCMC. You could be asked questions, theoretical questions regarding some of the popular quant models used for asset pricing, whether it is binomial model, whether it is Black-Scholes models. Um, okay, you could be asked questions related to financial markets, whether you have understanding of different products or not. Um, right, basic questions. As a fresher, you won't be asked too complicated questions, but if you have understanding of some basics, it will really impress the interviewer. As a fresher, nobody will expect you to have good understanding of financial market or banking products. But if you have the knowledge, you will have an edge over others who do not have the knowledge of financial markets. Okay. Uh, but just to tell you that what matters for a fresher is his mathematical skills, his programming skills, his machine learning, AI, statistical modeling skills. Those things matter more, much more than your knowledge of finance, regulations, products, and so on and so forth. That's not the case actually for experienced candidate. As an experienced candidate, you're supposed to know a lot about products, about regulations, about the different guidelines set out by the regulators. And you also need to know the more domain specific models that you cannot find in a textbook. A lot of the models you are used in the industry you cannot find anywhere. You cannot find the details about the models in any book or in any course actually. People will ask you those questions, and I know if you are a fresh experienced candidate and you have gone for interviews for controls, I'm sure you have the experience of being asked very specific questions related to, let's say you want to, you know you're going to be working in counterparty credit risk. You will be asked questions, very specific questions related to counterparty credit risk models. Or you're going to be working in credit risk model development for some portfolio, some wholesale portfolio or financial institution portfolio. You'll be asked questions related to the LGD, the CCF models, how you build and what sort of techniques you use. So the details about it you will be asked, right? You'll also be asked regarding regulations. If you're going to be working in insurance and banking, you'll be asked questions regarding the regulations, the relevant regulatory guidelines for that particular portfolio and that particular market or product, right? There are guidelines, European guidelines, UK guidelines, guidelines in the US or Middle East or India or any other. So depending on for which market you will be working for, you will be required to have knowledge about that particular market or jurisdiction. So those things are also important, but more for the experienced candidate, not less for the you know freshers. If you're going for quant trading, that sort of a role, you will be asked questions related to algorithm data structure also. Also, you will be asked questions like brain teasers and all, um, just to see that whether you are smart enough to quickly solve problems. So that's something you will be asked, and a lot of questions will be open ended. This is true for freshers. A lot of the questions that will be asked will be open ended, as in there is no right or wrong answer. It is about assessing how you think about the problem, right? um, I remember I was asked this question about how do you go about assessing the population of a given city, right? Just by guesstimating, right? There's no correct answer to this question. Well, there can be many ways you can do that, but so you could be asked these sort of questions where you just have to think very logically, and not use some fancy jargons to do something very fancy. Just use your common sense and try to answer this, uh, these sort of, not so technical, but yet analytical questions, right? But the questions related to probability and mathematics and programming, try to be very sharp, very clear. If you don't know something, then just say I don't know, and then yeah, you could be asked more other questions also. So in quant, actually, right, in quant interviews, you're not supposed to, or you're not required to answer all the questions. Actually, it's such a vast field. You could be asked questions from maths, from finance, from economics, from statistics, machine learning, programming, you name it, right? It's impossible to find a candidate who is good at all these areas. Very, very difficult, especially, when you hire a fresher, is practically impossible. You hire a computer science guy, he's very good in programming, he knows the algorithm data structure very well, can do brain teasers, but probably have no idea about financial market. You hire, you go for an MBA finance or MSc finance guy, he probably won't know much about programming and all that. So it's not about being a specialist in all these areas, it's just about knowing enough in all these areas. So not knowing few questions is fine, actually. So don't get nervous when you go for these interviews, because it's not about be good in every single thing. That's not the motive here. In fact, when you do a course in quantitative finance, what is recommended is that do not try to learn everything in detail, right? Because then you will never be able to learn quantitative finance properly, right? It's an interdisciplinary area which requires you to learn a lot of the areas, and as someone who is starting out, you cannot learn everything in detail if you want to learn something. And a subject like quantitative finance, which is very, very vast, cannot be learned in detail in just about few months or even few years time. Hence, it's important that you cover the breadth, know as much as possible, understand the jargons. Whenever you face difficulties, just move on, just learn something new. Don't waste your time just thinking about the same problem again and again. That won't help. Well, so that advice is not given in other academic fields. For instance, if you're learning physics or maths or engineering, people ask you to, focus on things and go deep into things. In quant finance, don't do that, especially as a beginner. First few years, don't specialize too much. But after a few years, you can choose to be a specialist in risk modeling or in quant trading, or for trading for a given asset class. That's fine, but not when you are starting out. I think it's good to explore a lot of things, and when you study something, also don't try to go deep into things. Just cover the breadth. That's more important. Okay. You'll also be asked questions related to financial economics. There's a lot of questions could be asked, time series modeling, panel data modeling, those things, right? So it's not just about machine learning, but also how to have good understanding of theoretical aspects of modeling, statistical modeling. Because a lot of ML people don't learn much about the theory part. But that's okay in many data science interviews, but certainly not in quant finance, where you are supposed to understand quite a bit of theory. Okay. um, you could also be asked about past experience, if you have any past experience in any other quant field, like you have been working in quant other quant fields, or maybe not in finance, but let's say in other fields, you are worked as a data scientist, or you worked as a software engineer, and you are moving to quantitative finance. You probably would be asked some questions from your previous experience, right? Some If you have research experience, if you have done PhD, postdocs, you may be getting some question. Not always, but if you have some relevant PhD experience, you have done some PhD in mathematical topic, computer science, finance, economics, mathematics, statistics, econometrics, then you may be asked some questions from your right. Um, then, as an experienced candidate, you will be asked a lot of questions from your previous projects, but also the exact domain, the area where you are considering yourself as a specialist. Okay. um, Questions could be asked from credit modeling, if you're working in risk modeling side, you'll be asked tons of questions from regulatory related questions, model specific questions. If you are working as a quant trader, you'll be asked questions related to your trading experience with the given asset class, what sort of challenges you faced, what models you use, performance level, how to backtest. All those questions will be asked. If you are a researcher, right, quant researcher, you are researching on various asset classes, then you will be asked lot of questions like how do you do the research, right? How do you read an academic paper? How you translate that into more usable stuff, right? All those questions will be asked. Will be asked questions about number of things, right? Over macroeconomy. I mean, people get asked very sort of different questions which you wouldn't expect in a normal interview, like case study related interviews, right? In a lot of the technical interviews in other fields, you do not really get case studies, right? But in quant finance, you may get. I have got such questions in interviews in the past, where case studies were given to me, like how to assess movement of gold price or movement of some commodity in the future, right? And you do not know actually which case study you will be given. So even if you prepare, you may not get that kind of a case study, right? It could be a completely different one, and you could be taken by shock when you face that sort of a question. But if you're genuine, right, you're not trying to outsmart the interviewer, but try to use your common sense, use simple techniques, don't throw jargons all the times. I think you should be fine. It doesn't matter whether you're able to solve the case study or not. It's about how you approach it. That's exactly you will be assessed upon, right? These are some of the tips I wanted to share with you if you're going for quant interviews. If are a lot of the people who are freshers, they're doing btechs or msc mbas, they're reaching out to me. Quite a few of you have reached out to me in the last few weeks since I started posting videos again. If you have interviews coming up, right? If you have interviews, campus interviews, if you're applying in some places, I will suggest you to be very prepared well on probability, basic statistics, understanding of algorithms, understanding of some financial market concepts, right? It may not be in detail, but these are some of the concepts you should try. And if you're a complete novice to the world of finance, then it becomes a bit difficult to impress the interviewer. Sometimes in the past, actually 10, 15 years back, I'm talking about in India, but also in elsewhere, there was a huge shortage of quant people, right? So people didn't really care about your knowledge of financial market, but things have changed a bit. There's still a demand supply gap, but the supply has increased quite drastically over the many years now. So if you have some knowledge of financial models, quant finance models, you will have an edge over others in the job interview, right? So that's something to keep in mind. If you want to prepare for these specific questions, domain specific questions, modeling specific, quant finance modeling specific questions, beside the probability statistical programming questions that you can prepare yourself without needing anyone else, reach out to me. Let me know if I can help you in any way. Okay, thanks, and see you in another video, guys.